In this lesson, we're going to have a look at the alarm data and how we're managing an instance of our alarms. So to jump straight into it, we have two UDTs that make up our alarm data for this project. We have our management area, so UDT alarm management, and we have our UDT alarm group. Now you could have as many groups as you want in here, and because of the way alarms are managed, it is okay to mix groups in one big data block. Usually with things like this, when we go down the asset orientated approach, we're like segregate everything just in case you want to update something, but everything in this data block will consist of one UDT alarm management and then multiple UDT alarm groups. So let's just have a look at what's in the management area. It's simply just two booleans for this project. We have accept and reset. You could create, if you did this in sort of your systems, you could create a mute button or a mute and a clear button, depending on how you're managing your alarms. Some people will be happy with just an accept and reset and they self-clear. And on accept, you automatically mute any audible warnings. And then some people will want to mute separately. They'll want to be able to accept, reset, and clear alarms all individually. And obviously, all those settings are dependent upon your HMI or SCADA and how you're managing your alarms. But to keep things simple, we just have accept and reset in this UDT, and then in our A1, which is our A1 alarm group, we have alarm, which is an array of 0 to 255 boolean, and accepted, which is an array of 0 to 255 boolean. And these are what will be mapped to our HMI later to tell the HMI you need to raise an alarm, you need to show the alarm on the screen. Now you can make this number as large as you need to for your project. 255 is usually more than enough for sort of like an average size project. But the reason I wanted to have a dedicated lesson on this, because you probably already have seen this array already based on the previous stuff we've done, is to just highlight something that might have gone unnoticed on the previous lesson, which was when we used these alarms, we didn't get any comments from the constants layer, so from the PLC constants. So if I come down and have a look at the PLC tags, open our A1 alarms, you look at the user constants, we've got these comments here, but because we're indexing an array, we don't get these comments coming through because they're used inside of an array tag. Because we're using these constants within a array or a variable that looks at an array to index that array, we get the comment from the array element, not from the constant that is indexing it. And because we don't have any comments on that array, we don't get anything come through at all. So you're using your constant, but it doesn't actually show on the programming in ladder logic or in structured text. It doesn't actually show you what the alarm is. You just have the A1 alarms dot alarm and then A1 inside the index field, which is IL01 out of range alarm, but you don't know that unless you come here. So the simplest thing to do is to set all your alarms, all the alarms that you know you need, and you might have to do this more than once because obviously whilst you're developing, things progress. But because the offset of everything is by 1 and is incremental, these values should all be incremental and in sequence. You should be able to just come and copy this this whole comment section, and then if you open up your alarm data, you should be able to expand that. Remember that we don't use alarm 0. Alarm 0 is reserved for alarms that aren't being configured to do anything. Or if you want to turn an alarm off, you put a 0 in. And that we'll go through that in the next lesson, because the next lesson looks at how we use this data. So you should be able to paste that in there. So if we go and have a look at using the A1 alarms, sorry, the alarm data, and use the A1 alarms to index it now, So if I open main, I think that's where we did it in the last lesson, and have a look at indexing it now, we should get the comment on there. So this time we can see that the comment is on there. And notice something, that if we use A1, it indexes it with the correct comment. If we use the user constant, it still indexes it with the correct comment, because A1 in this sense is still a 1. It can't be anything else. It's not possible for it to be anything else in runtime or in configuration time, because it's a constant and it can't be changed. So obviously we can go and change it now to 3, for example, if we wanted to. But what I'm saying is it's always going to be whatever we set it to. As soon as the PLC is running, it can't be changed. So it's okay for it to be indexed now. If you were to go and change that A1 to a variable from the temp field, for example, and you set it on the network above to 5, it won't display anything here because it doesn't know what that value is going to be in runtime, even though it can't change because the compiler doesn't work like that. So, but I wanted to demonstrate that because getting comments onto alarms, if you're going to use them this way, is important. You need to be able to see what you're doing. You shouldn't have to be opening up other text editors or the tag editor and things like that to try and find out what the alarm is. You should be able to index it and get the correct comment. So that's all that was about. We will be using this array to index our alarms, and in the next lesson we will go through the global alarm manager. This will be our first manager that's not tied explicitly to an asset, that's used outside of or can be used outside, and it will be used outside as part of our sequences to raise alarms for control processes, for instruments, devices. It can be used to raise any alarm that comes from our alarm array.